The royal palace of Arkany Prime gleamed like a crystal mountain against the violet sky. Inside its towering spires, the royal family celebrated the birth of their newest prince with a grand ceremony. Dignitaries from across the galactic hegemony had gathered to honor the perfect addition to the perfect bloodline. No one mentioned the other child, the one born 2 years earlier, hidden away in the east wing of the palace. Princess Kira Zalthax sat alone in her chambers, watching the celebrations. Through a video feed. She was not invited. She was never invited. At 22 cycles old, about 26 in Earth years, she had grown accustomed to being forgotten. "Would you like me to turn off the feed, Your Highness?" asked D3PO, her service droid. Kira shook her head. Her movements were jerky, lacking the fluid grace that characterized the Arkany species. "No, I want to see." On the screen, her father, Emperor Vexther, raised his newest son for all to see. The baby's skin glimmered a perfect sapphire blue, his. Tiny tendrils already forming the neural connections that would allow him to join the collective consciousness of their species. Unlike Kira, she touched her own skin, a paler, duller blue than her siblings. Her neural tendrils were stunted, unable to form the telepathic bonds that were the foundation of Arkany society. In their eyes, this made her defective, broken, a shame to the royal bloodline. She turned from the screen and moved to her study area. Her walk was uneven, each step calculated rather than natural. The Arkany doctors had tried to fix her when she was younger. Their treatments had only caused her pain. "D3PO, show me more about Earth," she said. The droid projected images of the blue-green planet that had recently joined the galactic community. Humans fascinated Kira. They had no telepathic abilities at all, yet they had built a thriving civilization. They celebrated differences rather than hiding them away. "Humans have a saying," D3PO informed her. "The squeaky wheel gets the grease." "What does that mean?" Kira asked, tilting her head. "It means those who speak up get attention. Unlike Arkany society, where harmony is valued above individual needs." Kira smiled. Her smiles always came out lopsided, another imperfection. "I like that saying." Her study session was interrupted by the door sliding open. Empress Nyalira entered, her movements so graceful she seemed to float. Her royal blue skin shimmered with health, her long tendrils elegantly arranged around her crowned head. "Mother," Kira said, struggling to stand properly. The Empress did not approach for the customary touch greeting. She never did. Touch would mean attempting a telepathic connection, and Kyra's failure to respond was too uncomfortable for her mother to bear. "The Emperor requires your presence in the royal chambers," she said coolly. Kira blinked in surprise. Her father had not summoned her in over 3 years. Now, once the celebration concludes, make yourself presentable. The Empress's eyes flicked over Kira's simple clothes and unstylish tendrils. Do your best. After her mother left, Kira spent an hour trying to arrange her stubby tendrils in a royal fashion. They wouldn't cooperate. Finally, she gave up and put on her finest dress, a deep purple gown with silver trim that complemented her pale blue skin. "You look lovely, Your Highness," D3PO assured her. "You're programmed to say that," Kira replied, but she appreciated it nonetheless. The walk to her father's chambers took 20 minutes. The palace was vast, and her quarters were intentionally far from the main halls where visitors might see her. Guards stared straight ahead as she passed, trained not to acknowledge the defective princess. Emperor Vexther was not alone when she arrived. 5 members of the High Council stood with him, their expressions unreadable to Kira. Other Arkany could sense emotions through their tendrils, but she had to rely on visual cues, another skill her people found unnecessary to develop. "Daughter," her father said, the word sounding strange on his lips, "we have come to a decision regarding your future." Kira's heart raced. She had always feared this day, when they would decide she was too embarrassing to keep, even hidden away. The humans have established a diplomatic outpost on Mars, the Emperor continued. They seek stronger ties with the hegemony. We have decided to send you to them as a gesture of goodwill. Kira struggled to process his words. You're sending me away? One of the counselors spoke up. It is a great honor. You will represent the Arcany to these newcomers. But Kira could see through the lie. They didn't want her representing anything. They wanted her gone. The humans have many disabilities among their own kind, her father said, as if that explained everything. They will not find your condition as distressing as we do. When? Kira asked, her voice small. You depart in 3 days. The Human Diplomatic Corps has been informed of your special needs. That night, alone in her room, Kira cried for hours. Not because she was being sent away. The palace had never been a home to her. She cried because even in getting rid of her, they had found a way to make. It seemed like an honor, but as the night wore on, something else grew inside her. Hope. Humans didn't have telepathy. They wouldn't expect it from her. On Earth, maybe her disability wouldn't matter. She dried her tears and called to her droid. D3PO. Download everything we have on human culture and customs. I need to learn as much as possible before I leave. Yes, Your Highness. May I say, I think the humans will appreciate you more than your own people have. Kira smiled her crooked smile. I hope so. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Kira was fitted for environmental suits, given translation devices, and loaded with data about human diplomatic protocols. No one from the royal family came to see her or help with the preparations. Her belongings were packed by servants who avoided meeting her eyes. On the day of her departure, she stood in the royal hangar beside a sleek diplomatic vessel. The Emperor and Empress made a brief appearance, standing at a distance. Bring honor to the Arcany, her father said formally. I will try not to embarrass you further, Kira replied, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. For just a moment, something like regret flickered across her mother's face. But then it was gone, replaced by the perfect royal mask Dot as Kira boarded the ship. She refused to look back at the palace. Instead, she looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a planet where people celebrated differences and helped those who struggled. Where the squeaky wheel got the grease. Maybe, just maybe, she would finally find a place where she belonged. Lieutenant Jack Harper stood at attention on the landing pad of Mars Diplomatic Station. The red planet's thin atmosphere swirled outside the massive dome that protected the human outpost. He adjusted his dress uniform and tried not to fidget. After 15 years in the Navy SEALs and another 5 in diplomatic security, standing still should have been easy. But this assignment made him nervous. Stop looking so tense, said Commander Lara Bell beside him. It's just an alien princess. Just an alien princess, Jack repeated. From the most powerful species in the galaxy. Lavra shrugged. Word from upstairs is she's being dumped on us. Some kind of royal reject. Jack frowned. He had heard the rumors too. The Arcany were sending a defective member of their royal family as a supposed gesture of goodwill. Most of the diplomatic corps saw it as an insult. Whatever she is, she's our responsibility now, Jack said. The sleek Arcany vessel descended. From the sky, its crystal-like surface reflecting the Martian sunset. It landed with barely a sound. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then a ramp extended, and 2 tall, blue-skinned Arcany emerged. They wore elaborate armor and moved with unsettling grace. Their tendrils, what humans had nicknamed living hair, shifted slightly as they surveyed the welcoming committee. Jack felt a light pressure in his mind. The Arcany were telepathic, and these guards were scanning the humans for threats. Finally, A smaller figure appeared at the top of the ramp. Princess Kira Zolfax moved carefully down the ramp. Her steps were deliberate, almost robotic. Unlike the fluid movements of her guards, she seemed to calculate each step before taking it. Jack noticed other differences immediately. Her blue skin was paler than the others, her tendrils shorter and less active. She wore a simple travel suit rather than royal finery. When she reached the bottom of the ramp, she attempted a human-style bow, but the movement was awkward, and she nearly lost her balance. One of the Arcany guards handed Commander Bell a data tablet. "Care instructions for the princess," he said through a translator device. His tone made it sound like they were dropping off a pet, not a royal dignitary. The guards bowed formally to the princess, but Jack noticed they never made physical contact with her. Without another word to the humans, they returned to their ship. "Wait," Jack called after them. "Isn't there a formal handover ceremony? Cultural briefing? Anything?" The guards paused, and one turned back. "The princess has been prepared, with knowledge of your customs. She will not require our assistance." The statement had an air of finality. Minutes later, the Arcany ship took off, leaving Princess Kira standing alone with her small luggage pod hovering beside her. Commander Bell cleared her throat. "Welcome to Mars Diplomatic Station, Your Highness. I'm Commander Laura Bell, and this is Lieutenant Jack Harper, who will be in charge of your security detail." The princess activated her translator device. When she spoke, her words came out strangely paced, with odd pauses. "Thank you for receiving me. I hope my presence here will strengthen bonds between our peoples." Her formal words sounded rehearsed, but Jack noticed something in her eyes, a mixture of fear and hope that seemed very human. "Lieutenant Harper will show you to your quarters," Commander Bell said. "There's a welcome dinner scheduled for 1900 hours. That gives you 3 hours to rest and prepare." Jack stepped forward. "If you'll follow me, Your Highness." As they walked through the station corridors, Jack slowed his pace to match the princess's careful steps. He noticed how station personnel stared as they passed. Aliens weren't uncommon at the diplomatic outpost, but royalty was. "Is something wrong with your legs?" Jack asked, and immediately regretted his bluntness. To his surprise, the princess didn't seem offended. "Not wrong, different. My neural pathways process movement differently than normal Arcany." "So it's a neurological difference, not physical?" She nodded. "My people find it disturbing. Imperfection is not tolerated in royal bloodlines." Jack felt a surge of anger toward the Arcany, who had so casually abandoned her. "Well, humans come in all sorts of different packages. You'll find we're a lot more accepting of differences." For the first time, a small smile appeared on her face. It was lopsided, tugging more at one side of her mouth than the other. "That is what I hoped." The diplomatic quarters assigned to the princess were the station's finest, with a view of the Martian landscape. Jack showed her how to use the environmental controls and communication system. "The gravity here is set to Earth normal," he explained. "We can adjust it if that would be more comfortable for you." "This is fine," she said. "Arcany Prime has similar gravity." As she explored the room, Jack studied the care instructions tablet. It was coldly clinical, detailing her defects as if she were a faulty product. According to the document, Princess Kira had been born with a rare genetic mutation that affected her neural development. She couldn't form telepathic bonds, moved abnormally, and had difficulty with typical Arcany communication patterns. The tablet also mentioned that she was intellectually functional, but socially unacceptable by royal standards. Jack's anger grew as he read. The final note simply stated that the princess was permanently assigned to human diplomatic relations. and would not be recalled to Arcany Prime. She had been exiled permanently. When Jack looked up, he found Kira watching him. "They say very bad things about me. Don't they?" Jack hesitated, then nodded. "They don't seem to appreciate you much." "No," she agreed quietly. "They don't." At the welcome dinner that evening, Jack stood at his post near the wall, watching, as Princess Kira struggled through the social event. The dining utensils confused her, and she knocked over her water glass twice. The other diplomats were polite but distant, their smiles not reaching their eyes. When she tried to explain Arcany cultural practices, her halting speech and unusual pauses made people impatient. Several guests exchanged glances that Jack recognized. All too well, the look people give when they think someone isn't quite right in the head. But Jack noticed something else too. Despite her struggles, Princess Kira kept trying. When she saw confusion on someone's face, she would attempt to rephrase. When she spilled her drink, she apologized with dignity. There was a quiet determination in her that he found admirable. After the dinner, Jack escorted her back to her quarters. She was quiet, her earlier excitement dimmed. "First days are always rough," Jack offered as they reached her door. She looked up at him, her alien eyes surprisingly expressive. "Do they think I am defective too?" The question caught him off guard with its directness. "They don't know you yet? Give them time." "Time," she repeated. "Yes, humans are good at seeing differently with time." She paused at her door. "Thank you, Lieutenant Harper. You were kind today." Jack realized with some surprise that he genuinely wanted to help her. Not out of duty, but because something about her courage in the face of rejection touched him. "Call me Jack," he said, "and tomorrow will be better. I promise." 2 weeks passed since Princess Kira's arrival on Mars. Each morning, Jack arrived at her quarters to escort her to her diplomatic duties. Each evening, he brought her back. What began as a simple assignment had become something he looked forward to each day. Today, Jack found Kira sitting at her desk, surrounded by floating holographic displays. Her fingers moved through the air, manipulating complex equations that made his head hurt just looking at them. "Good morning, Your Highness," he said. Kira turned, her lopsided smile appearing. "Good morning, Jack." Her speech had improved. She still paused sometimes, but the translator device now better matched her speech patterns. "What are you working on?" he asked, genuinely curious. "Orbital calculations." She waved at the displays. "Earth ships use too much fuel on the Jupiter route. I found a better path." Jack looked closer at the numbers. "You did this for fun?" "My mind works differently than other Arcany," she explained. "They connect through telepathy. I connect through numbers and patterns." Jack had been reviewing her file over the past weeks. The Arcany had labeled her as defective because she couldn't join their telepathic network, but they had missed something important. Kira's brain was exceptional in other ways. "Have you shown this to the Transit Authority?" he asked. She shook her head. Who would listen to the broken princess? "I would," Jack said firmly. "And so would Commander Bell. She has a meeting with the Transit Director this afternoon. You should come." Kira hesitated. "The other diplomats do not enjoy my company." This was true. Despite her efforts, most of the human diplomatic corps kept their distance. They saw her assignment to Mars as an insult from the Arcany, not an opportunity. "Their loss," Jack said. "Get your data ready. We're going to that meeting." 3 hours later, Kira stood before Commander Bell and Transit Director Alan Wade. Her movements were still jerky as she pointed to her calculations, but her voice was steady as she explained the new route. Director Wade stared at the numbers. "This would save us nearly 40% on fuel costs. How did you see this pattern?" Kira tilted her head. "It was there. I just saw it. The princess has been studying Earth's solar system as a hobby, Jack explained, feeling proud of her. Commander Bell looked thoughtful. What else have you been studying, Your Highness? Communication systems, Kira replied. Your translator technology is inefficient. I have ideas for improvements. For the first time since her arrival, the humans were looking at Kira with something other than pity or polite distance. They were looking at her with respect. As they left the meeting, Jack noticed Kira's steps were lighter, almost bouncy despite their unevenness. They listened to me, she said, wonder in her voice. Of course they did. Your idea was brilliant. She stopped walking and turned to him. On Arcany Prime, no one ever asked what I could do. They only saw what I could not do. Jack felt a surge of anger toward her people. Well, that's their mistake. Humans are pretty good at finding what makes each person special. The next day, Jack volunteered for an extra shift guarding the princess. He told himself it was because she had a meeting with the technology department about her translator improvements. The truth was, he simply enjoyed her company. He found her in the station's observation dome, staring out at the Martian landscape. Beautiful, isn't it? He asked, coming to stand beside her. Yes, she agreed. Red like fire. On my world, everything is blue and purple. Do you miss it? Your home? Kira was quiet for a long moment. I miss the idea of home. Not Arcany Prime. I never belonged there. Jack understood that feeling. After leaving the SEALs, he had drifted between assignments, never quite finding his place. What's it like? He asked. Not being able to connect telepathically with your people? Her blue hand touched the glass. Lonely, like everyone is having a conversation you cannot hear. They share feelings, memories, thoughts, and you are silent. I'm sorry. Don't be, she said. All humans live this way. Yet you connect. Through words, through touch, through actions. I find it ... beautiful. Jack realized how close they were standing. If she were human, it would be too close for professional comfort. But Kira seemed to find the proximity comforting. I brought you something, he said, pulling a small device from his pocket. It's a gravity regulator. Clips to your belt. It should help with your balance, make walking easier. Kira took the device, her fingers brushing his. You made this for me? I had the engineering department help. We noticed your movements are more difficult in Mars gravity than Earth normal. This should adjust the field around you to something more comfortable. She clipped the device to her belt and activated it. Immediately, her posture changed, becoming more relaxed. She took a few steps, and for the first time, Jack saw her move without having to think about each step. The joy on her face made his heart skip. Jack, she said, her voice full of emotion. No one has ever made something just for me before. Before he could respond, the station's alert system activated. A red light flashed, and Commander Bell's voice came over the comm system. All personnel, report to emergency stations. We have received an urgent message from Earth Command. The Arcany hegemony has declared war on the Tau Ceti colonies. All diplomatic relations are now at level 1 alert. Kira's face paled to a lighter blue. War? My people would not. We need to get you to secure quarters, Jack said, instantly back in security mode. Until we know what's happening, you could be at risk. As they hurried through the corridors, station personnel stared at Kira with new suspicion. Word of the war declaration spread quickly. The alien princess was suddenly seen as a potential enemy rather than a diplomatic guest dot in her quarters. Kira paced back and forth, her movements smoother thanks to Jack's device, but her face twisted with worry. This is wrong, she said. The Tau Ceti colonies pose no threat to the hegemony. Jack stood by the door, torn between duty and the trust he had built with Kira. Your father, the Emperor. Would he start a war without cause? My father sees threats everywhere, Kira said bitterly. Anyone different is a threat. Anything he cannot control is a threat. Jack's communicator beeped. The message made his stomach drop. Ambassador Kelly has ordered all Arcani nationals confined to quarters under guard, he told her. Including you. Kira stopped pacing. Am I a prisoner now? No, Jack said firmly. You're under protection. There are people who might blame you for your government's actions. And you? She asked quietly. Do you see me as the enemy now? Jack looked at her, really looked at her. The princess who had been thrown away by her own people, who had shared her brilliant mind with humans who initially dismissed her, who had brought him a new perspective on what strength really meant. I see you as Kira, he said simply. Nothing else matters. 3 days had passed since the war declaration. Kira remained confined to her quarters, with Jack as her primary guard. Outside her rooms, the Mars diplomatic station buzzed with activity as diplomats and military personnel prepared for a potential escalation of the conflict. Jack entered Kira's quarters after his brief rest period to find her watching Earth news broadcasts. Her face was drawn with worry. The Tau Ceti colonies are evacuating civilians, she said without looking away from the screen. 3 million people displaced because of my father's pride. Jack set down the tray of food he had brought. You're not responsible for your father's actions. I know his strategies, Kira said. I studied them in secret for years. This attack follows his typical pattern. Strike at what appears weak, use overwhelming force, accept no compromise. She turned to Jack, her eyes intense. I could help Earth understand how to respond. I know things about Arcani military tactics. That could save lives. Jack hesitated. Offering such help would be a complete betrayal of her people. Are you sure you want to do that? The Arcani abandoned me, she said firmly. But more importantly, they are wrong in this war. The Tau Ceti. People deserve protection. Before Jack could respond, his communicator beeped. Lieutenant Harper, report to command immediately. Bring the princess. In the command center, Ambassador Kelly and Commander Bell stood before a large holographic display showing fleet movements. They looked up as Jack and Kira entered. Your Highness, Ambassador Kelly said, his tone formal. We've received a communication from the Emperor. Your father wishes to speak with you. Kira's body went rigid. My father? He has never contacted me once since I came here. It seems the situation has changed his priorities, Commander Bell said. The call will come through in 5 minutes. Jack watched as Kira paced the room, her movements jerky despite the gravity regulator. He could see fear in her eyes. You don't have to speak with him if you don't want to, he told her quietly. She shook her head. I must. There might be information. I can learn that will help. When the call connected, Emperor Vexther's imposing figure appeared on the main screen. His blue skin was darker than Kira's, his tendrils longer and more active. He wore ceremonial battle armor that gleamed in the night. Light, daughter, he said, the word sounding cold from his lips. You are well? Kira stood straight, her chin lifted. I am well, father. Why have you called after all this time? The Emperor's expression didn't change. The humans treat you properly? They respect your royal status? They treat me with more respect than I ever received on Arcani Prime, Kira replied, a slight edge to her voice. Jack noticed Ambassador Kelly shifting nervously. This wasn't the submissive diplomatic exchange he had expected. Good, the Emperor said. Then my decision was correct. I will come to the point. The war with Tau Ceti has created complications. Some factions within the hegemony question my strength because I sent away a royal child, even a defective one. Kira flinched slightly at the word defective. I am prepared to restore your royal status, the Emperor continued. You will return to Arcany Prime and take your place in the royal court. This will silence my critics and demonstrate the unity of our bloodline during wartime. Ambassador Kelly stepped forward. Your Majesty, this is wonderful news. We can arrange for Princess Kira's return immediately. No, Kira said. The room went silent. On the screen, Emperor Vexter's tendrils stiffened. What did you say? He asked, his voice dangerous. I said no, Father. I will not return. Jack felt a surge of pride mixed with fear for her. No one said no to the Emperor of the Arcany. You refuse a direct command from your Emperor? Vexter's voice was deadly quiet. I refuse a convenient political ploy, Kira replied. You didn't want me when I embarrassed you. Now you want me only because my absence embarrasses you more. The Emperor's face darkened. You forget yourself, daughter. You belong to the royal bloodline. You belong to me. I belong to myself, Kira said. Her voice shook slightly, but her gaze remained steady. And I have found a place where my differences are valued, not hidden away. Emperor Vexter's tendrils writhed with anger. The humans have poisoned your mind. They will regret this interference. His eyes shifted to Ambassador Kelly. You have one standard week to return my daughter. After that, Earth will face consequences. The screen went black as the Emperor cut the connection. Ambassador Kelly turned to Kira, his face pale. Your Highness, you cannot refuse your father. The Earth cannot afford another enemy right now. He's bluffing, Kira said. The Arcany military is fully committed to the Tau Ceti front. He cannot open a second front against Earth. How can you be sure? Commander Bell asked. Because I know his strategies. And I know Arcany military capabilities. Kira moved to the holographic display. May I? After a nod from Commander Bell, Kira began manipulating the display. Her fingers moved with surprising grace as she pulled up star charts and fleet positions. The Arcany fleet is here, and here, she said, marking positions. Their supply lines extend back to these 3 star bases. They cannot sustain a war on 2 fronts without compromising their position against Tau Ceti. The military officers in the room exchanged surprised glances. This was highly classified information she was revealing. Your Highness, Admiral Jones, sighed carefully. You are betraying state secrets of your people. Kira looked at him steadily. I am preventing an unnecessary expansion of a war. My father rules through fear and intimidation. He needs to be shown that his threats are empty. Jack stepped closer to Kira. What are you suggesting? A diplomatic counter-threat, she said. One that exploits what I know about internal hegemony politics. She turned to Ambassador Kelly. The Arcany Council is divided on this war. Many believe it is unnecessary. If Earth threatens to reveal certain information to these council members, my father will back down. What information? Kelly asked. The truth about me. Kira said simply. That I am not defective, just different. That my mind works in ways that can see patterns others cannot. That diversity of thought is strength, not weakness. She paused. This goes against everything the Emperor has taught his people. It would undermine the very foundation of his rule. Admiral Jones shook his head. A philosophical argument won't stop a warship. It might stop this one, Jack interjected, understanding what Kira meant. The Arcany society is built on telepathic conformity. The idea that different types of minds could be valuable threatens their entire social structure. Kira nodded. Exactly. My father fears this idea more than any weapon. Ambassador Kelly looked uncertain. And you would help us craft this message? Knowing it could destabilize your home world? My home is here now, Kira said quietly. She glanced at Jack, with people who see me, not just my differences. After the meeting, Jack escorted Kira back to her quarters. Neither spoke until they were alone. You just committed treason against your people, Jack said finally. Are you sure about this? Kira touched the gravity regulator at her belt, the device Jack had made specially for her. The Arcany stopped being my people when they decided. I was worthless because I was different. She looked up at him. Humans showed me another way. 1 month later, Kira stood beside Jack on the observation deck of the space station Europa 1. Through the massive viewport, Jupiter loomed large, its swirling storms a backdrop to the most important diplomatic meeting in recent galactic history. Are you nervous? Jack asked, noticing how she fidgeted with the sleeve of her formal Earth diplomatic uniform. The dark blue material was a stark contrast to her pale blue skin. Yes, she admitted. I will face my father today as an equal, not as his defective daughter. In the weeks since the Emperor's ultimatum, much had changed. Kira had worked tirelessly with Earth's diplomatic team, helping them craft a response that exploited the political divisions within the Arcany hegemony. She revealed the names of council members who secretly opposed the war, provided insight into the Emperor's decision-making patterns, and identified weaknesses in the hegemony's alliance structure. The result was a diplomatic counterproposal so precisely targeted that it had forced the Emperor to agree to peace talks. You've come a long way from the princess who arrived on Mars 3 months ago, Jack said. Kira smiled her now familiar lopsided smile. Because of you. No, Jack shook his head. You did this. All I did was see what was already there. That was everything, she said quietly. To be seen. The door to the observation deck slid open, and Commander Bell entered. It's time, Your Highness. The Arcany delegation has docked. Jack walked beside Kira to the main conference room. As her official security escort, he would remain with her throughout the negotiations. Unofficially, he was there as her friend, her supporter, and perhaps something more that neither had put into words yet. The conference room was arranged with Earth representatives on one side, in space for the Arcany. On the other, Ambassador Kelly nodded to Kira as she took her place at the table, not on Earth's side, but at the head of the table. Her position as mediator had been one of Earth's conditions for the talks. The doors opened, and Emperor Vexter entered with his delegation. His eyes immediately found Kira, and Jack saw surprise flash across his face. The princess who sat before him was not the awkward, uncertain young woman he had discarded months ago. Kira wore her gravity regulator openly on her belt. Her movements, while still different from other Arcany, were confident. She had styled her shorter tendrils in a new way that complemented their natural form, rather than trying to mimic normal Arcany styles. Father, she greeted him formally. The people of Earth welcome you to these peace talks. The Emperor took his seat slowly, his gaze never leaving his daughter. You speak for Earth now? I speak as myself, Kira replied. A bridge between two worlds. For the next 4 hours, negotiations proceeded. The Emperor demanded Earth's neutrality in the Tau Ceti conflict. Ambassador Kelly countered with terms for a complete cessation of hostilities. Voices rose and fell. Threats were made and dismissed. Through it all, Kira remained calm, translating not just words, but cultural nuances for both sides. When her father used an Arcany idiom meant to intimidate, she explained its true meaning to the humans. When Ambassador Kelly made a proposal that would be seen as weakness in Arcany culture, she helped him rephrase it. During a brief recess, the Emperor approached Kira as she stood with Jack near the refreshment table. You have changed, he said, his tone unreadable. I have grown, Kira corrected, into what I was always meant to be. The Emperor's tendrils shifted slightly. The humans value your condition? They value my mind, she said. My perspective. They understand that different is not defective. For a moment, something like regret passed across the Emperor's face. Could you have been this person on Arcany Prime? No, Kira said simply. I needed to be seen, not hidden. I needed one person to believe in me. She glanced at Jack. I found that here. The Emperor followed her gaze to Jack, who stood protectively. At her side, a human guard changed what centuries of Arcany breeding could not. He saw me, Kira repeated, when my own family could not. When negotiations resumed, something had shifted. The Emperor's demands became less absolute. He agreed to a limited ceasefire in the Tau City sector. Ambassador Kelly, sensing the change, offered concessions on trade routes that Kira had identified as important to the hegemony. By the end of the day, a preliminary peace agreement had been reached. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. The Tau Ceti colonies would be safe. Earth would maintain its independence. The Arcani would save face. As the delegates filed out, the Emperor paused before Kira. The Council has suggested that we need a permanent ambassador to Earth, someone who understands both cultures. Kira tilted her head. Are you offering me my old position back? No, the Emperor said. I am offering you a new one. Not as a discarded princess, but as the official voice of the hegemony to humanity. Jack watched Kira carefully, worried she might be tempted by this offer of reconciliation. With her people, I will consider it, Kira said carefully. But I would remain on Earth. My home is there now. The Emperor's gaze shifted briefly to Jack. Because of him? Because of what he showed me, Kira corrected. That different minds see different solutions. That diversity is strength, not weakness. After the Emperor departed, Kira and Jack stood alone in the conference room. Through the viewport, they could see the Arcany diplomatic vessel preparing to depart. Will you take his offer? Jack asked. Kira turned to him. Yes, but not for the reasons he thinks. Not to return to my old life. Then why? Because someone needs to change how the Arcany see difference, she said. Someone needs to show them that minds like mine have value. That telepathy is not the only way to connect. Jack smiled. Sounds like a big job. It is, she agreed. A lifetime of work, perhaps, but worth doing. She paused, suddenly uncertain. Would you stay with me? Help me? Jack took her hand, feeling the slight difference in temperature between her alien skin and his human touch. For as long as you want me. 1 year later, the Earth Diplomatic Corps officially appointed Kira Zol-Thax as their ambassador to the Arcany hegemony. In her first official act, she established the Neurodiversity Initiative, a program to identify and support differently abled individuals across all species. At the opening ceremony, she stood proudly with Jack at her side. Her movements were still different. Her speech still had its unique rhythm, but no one saw these things as flaws anymore. She was a disabled alien princess no one wanted. Jack had told a reporter who asked about their unusual story. But she became the bridge between worlds that everyone needed. Kira had simply smiled her lopsided smile and added, all because one human saw me as I truly was.